Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. I am John Clark. The Eagles, they're 1-0. They've won all 4 season openers under Doug Peterson. Can they go to 2-0 for the first time since Doug's first year with the Eagles? The Birds are going to be facing some angry Birds of Atlanta. They got down 28-0 in Minnesota before losing. But let's start with our tape study presented by Chickies and Pete's. Here's some of the Eagles' best plays from week 1. Our own Fran Duffy with offensive coordinator Mike Groh.
They have to get to the Redskins 41. Wentz back. Wentz looking. He's looking. He is going deep. And it is caught. Touchdown, Deshaun Jackson.
Give the people what they came to see. Deshaun Jackson on a deep ball, perfectly thrown by Carson Wentz for the touchdown.
Well, welcome into this week's version of Tape Study. I'm Fran Duffy, joined by Eagles offensive coordinator Mike Groh. And Coach, you get in your car after the game. First of all, congratulations on the Week 1 win. Great way to start the season. You get in your car after the game, you're heading home. What's the number one thing you were most excited about leaving that game, leaving the Link on Sunday?
Well, I love the way we finished the game. Really, from the second quarter on, we had almost 30 minutes of time of possession. I think it was 32 points there from the second quarter on, and so really pleased with that. The 20-play drive. There in the fourth quarter, really to take the air out of the game completely. Love the physicality and the way that we were able to dominate up front.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of that domination in the trenches a little bit. But I want to first start 65% on third down, 32 points in the game. This is a 3rd and 10, the very first play. And it's Deshaun Jackson's first touchdown back in Eagles green. But there's a lot of elements to this play. I wanted to have you take a look and see what you're seeing here from a coach's standpoint.
Well, they're presenting a shell. We got, I think it's 3rd and 10 in this particular play. So they're presenting a shell to us, and we're just short motioning down. They did a number of things, had a number of different coverages on this down and distance. So we're just shortening Alshon down. We're building a bunch set. So we got our 3 receivers stacked over there, and Deshaun's at the point. And then on the snap, right, you could see both these defensive linemen, they're presenting a rush look. They drop out into coverage and what we would call a 220 Tampa invert. So 51 here, he's running the middle of the field. Both safeties are dropping down, and now the corners really become the half players out here on the back end. So you see everything is inverted with the D linemen dropping out, becoming the hook players. So there's a lot of moving parts here from a coverage standpoint for Carson to try to figure out.
So take us through now the play call and exactly what Carson sees here and how he kind of changed things up from where the ball typically would go in that kind of situation.
Right, so we know that we've got Deshaun here on what we call a clear route, and Alshon's running a dagger, all right, and Nelly's got a deep cross, and then Ertz is running what we would call a crossing route. So we're building a high-low, right, with a through route right there, a clear to try to gut any corners player, and that's Deshaun. But when they play middle open, particularly invert, the width, okay, of the corners right here are now the half-field players, all right, and then this Mike linebacker, he'd be responsible to try to keep up with Deshaun, all right, running his 21.5 miles an hour down the field. That's a tough job.
Yeah, so it's Carson recognizes that, pulls the trigger, and Deshaun talked about it after the game. He said, he told me before the snap, just be ready, just in case you get this kind of look.
Yeah, I mean, Carson's one of the few guys that I think could pull that off, and what a great play between those two guys, a heck of a throw, and you can see that Deshaun hasn't lost a step.
No question. And what I like, too, on the offensive line, some guys holding up in one-on-ones. You got Lane Johnson, in particular, holding up against Ryan Kerrigan on an island.
Yeah, well, look at the communication, number one, right? Presenting a 5-man front, a 5-down front, and then getting the double team between Isaac and JP here, right? We've got this lockdown here with Jason and Brandon Brooks, and then, like you said, Lane over here one-on-one with Kerrigan, and we all have a lot of respect for him as a football player, and Lane did a tremendous job blocking him. I mean, look at that pocket. You couldn't ask for anything more as a quarterback there on 3rd and long.
Well, you mentioned just the job that you guys did up front in the trenches, particularly in the second half. You come out in the 3rd quarter and you really just run it right up the Redskins' throat and get after them in the run game. We want to bring up this one play. Darren Sproles, a 17-yard run. What exactly was the play call, and just take us through the execution?
Right, we've got an inside zone here to our right, and we got up on the line of scrimmage immediately following the play preceding this. So as we do that, we're looking at everything from a coverage shell standpoint to make sure that we got the right defensive structure that we want. All right, and then we're getting our double teams, right? We're getting our orange block here with Jason and Brooksy, and then we're getting our B block here on the backside with JP and Isaac, okay? And we're trying to deposit both these down linemen into the laps of the linebackers that are stacked behind them. We want to smash these stacks, and then Darren's going to ride the wave, try to read the backer there, and then he just cuts it back off the backside double team.
Just a great job of Darren reading this, and the tight ends on the backside help create even more space for him to work as well.
It's a heck of a job, and Dallas did a great job with this all game long. Same with Zach here on the backside, right of sealing the defensive end and the buck linebacker. And look at that hole. You can see how we've displaced them, established a new line of scrimmage.
And as I know, as a point of emphasis for those guys coming out, you could just tell the way you guys got after it in the ground game. Really, really impressive. And all those guys up front really pitching in. And to me, one of the things that stood out, you look at the biggest runs in the game, it's Miles Sanders, it's Jordan Howard, it's Darren Sproles, everybody chipping in from the backfield.
Yeah, and I think that you could say that throughout the course of the game. Everybody had a piece of this game. Everybody contributed in their own way, and I think that that's one of the most exciting things about the win.
Yeah, and you're not just asking these backs to catch passes or run the ball. They got to be able to protect too. And Miles Sanders, the rookie, showed up again. We talked about it a play last week with Andy Weidel, came in and broke down a pass protection play where he opened some things up in the preseason that showed up in the regular season.
Right. There's a lot of rookie running backs who have a hard time getting on the field because they don't understand pass protection. Yep. So Deuce has done a great job of educating Miles, and he's locked in. Very intelligent player. He understands what we want to do right here in pass protection, and he knows that number 53 belongs to him. And you can see there's no hesitation as he works across the formation right here, and he really steps up and stones Bostic right there in the hole as he blitzes. Okay, they've got the Mike blitz on right there, and look at Miles come in, lower the shoulder, and give Carson enough room to be able to complete a throw in motion.
Was that something that when you did your film study of him, watching him at Penn State, that you saw from him on film, or was that something we knew, all right, we're going to have to coach him up, and we're going to rely on the kid to be coachable and take to it?
Well, you just try to gauge his toughness, and we really felt confident that he was a really tough kid, and he'd be willing to do it. It's just a matter of teaching him our pass protection rules, and he's very smart, and he's picked it up, and you can see there was 2 cases in the game where he did a great job of coming across and picking up the blitzing linebacker.
Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, a proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Nice way to start the season, guys. We talked about it just being 1-0 this week. That's all we want is 1-0. You got it done. Resilient group, you hung together. That's what I'm talking about right there. You're 1-0. Great job. Congratulations, man. Just a precursor to next week. Now we got to go on the road. Just to put this in your mind right now. If we're going to win multiple games, you got to do it on the road as well. Not only take care of business here, but you got to go on the road and do it too. Okay, so that's our focus this next week as we prepare for the next one. Hey, congratulations, man. My hat's off to you. Way to work. Love it. 1-0.
All right, Doug Peterson, obviously very happy after that big comeback. Mike Quick, it was impressive because the Eagles running the ball, they only had 22 rushing yards in the first half. At halftime, Doug Peterson told his offensive line, take over this game. He challenged them. That's exactly what they did, over 100 rushing yards in the second half. What is it they did?
They answered the challenge, John, and they did a great job in controlling the line of scrimmage. This play is a perfect example of what Jeff Stoutland calls smash and stack. You watch this 3 technique, and Brooks just takes over this guy, knocks him into the second level, and it doesn't allow this linebacker to get penetration. Lane Johnson comes up, takes care of the linebacker. You got the excellent double team right here. Zach Ertz does a nice job right here on Ryan Kerrigan, one of their best run defenders. And with this zone play, this young guy, Miles Sanders, he's going to run to daylight. So he gets this play to the outside. The blocking is there, but there's no apparent hole. He's able to bounce it to the outside. He does an excellent job of getting 8 yards on a play where it really doesn't look like there's a lot there, but with his speed, his quickness, he's able to get to the outside, get it upfield for an 8-yard pickup.
And coming out of the half, when Doug Peterson runs it, 9 out of 12 plays on that first drive, 53 rushing yards coming out of the half. What does that do for the mentality of the offense in the second half?
That's what the bigs want to do. They want to beat you up at the line of scrimmage, and they were able to do that in the second half because they stuck to the run game. They committed to running the football, and the bigs took over the line of scrimmage. And, you've got Jordan Howard coming out of the backfield, Darren Sproles, Miles Sanders, and all of these guys can run the football, but they can also catch the ball out of the backfield, so it doesn't tip the hand of the defense.
Enemy Intel is brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics at Jefferson Health, the official orthopedics and healthcare partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
The Eagles' run game, sometimes overlooked, is almost always critical to their success. Now, when you study their opponent this week, the Atlanta Falcons, one player on that defensive front always stands out, and that's Grady Jarrett, the defensive tackle. Now, Jarrett is a player that's a gap player, meaning that he lines up in between offensive linemen. He can line up what we call a 3 technique position in between the guard and the tackle. He can line up at what we call the 1 technique position in between the center and the guard. But in either spot, he's extremely disruptive with his off-the-ball quickness and his ability to beat offensive linemen and get into gaps. Let's start with a play from last week against the Minnesota Vikings. Here you're going to see Jarrett as a 3 technique. He's lined up just to the outside shoulder of the left guard, Pat Elflein. Look at the way Jarrett works immediately to the inside of Elflein, who's not expecting this at all. And immediately he wins. And the key part here is his secondary explosiveness. Not only does he win immediately off the ball, but then he's got the explosion to continue and finish and tackle Dalvin Cook for a loss. Now, the Eagles seemingly face the Falcons every year. So there's a track record, there's tape of Grady Jarrett playing against the Eagles. And these two teams played a year ago in the opening game of the season. Now here, you see Jarrett lined up as a 1 technique, just to the left shoulder of center Jason Kelce. Now this is a play that the Eagles run a lot. They like what we call the wham concept, where they bring the tight end, here at Zach Ertz, inside to angle block the 1 technique, Grady Jarrett. Now what's so special about this play is Jarrett's recognition. Because notice, as soon as Kelce clears him to work to the second level, where do Jarrett's eyes go? He recognizes that it will be a wham technique by the tight end Ertz, and he immediately looks at Zach, and he takes him on, and he then makes the tackle in the run game. So Grady Jarrett, when you study film of this Falcons defensive line, he's the most disruptive player. He's the player that the Eagles must take care of for their run game to be effective.
Mike Quick, Carson Wentz was looking like the 2017 Carson Wentz when he was one of the best, if not the best, quarterbacks in the NFL on third down. And against the Redskins, he was 12 of 13 for close to 200 yards, and all 3 touchdown passes were on third down. How impressive was this?
That was extremely impressive. And you mentioned the 2017 season. They're one of the best on third downs. That's how you win football games. That's how you keep drives alive, being efficient on third downs. And they did it in so many ways. The play calling, I thought, was excellent on third down. The quarterback and his use of all of his targets on third down. But it starts with the big guys. The protection was really, really good. But Carson and his selection of where I'm going to go with the football, sometimes it's just a check down, but there are a number of times when he's able to hit Deshaun Jackson or go down the field with the football. All of these things working in harmony. That's why they were so efficient on third down.
What was going through your head on the first touchdown when you crossed the plane and scored a touchdown?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't the intended receiver on that play. It was actually like a clear route, but Carson was like, man, stay alert. And that play was actually intended for Alshon on the deep cross route. But the way they played that coverage, it was like an in and out. And, you know, Josh Norman was outside. I was inside the slot, and he was supposed to be guarding Alshon. But when I went, he took me. Safety kind of cut down on the route, and it was just, he threw the ball, and shoot, I just ran, caught it, and just great feeling.
Deshaun had a big week 1, but a year ago, guess who he was running routes for in Tampa? Dirk Cutter, who's now the offensive coordinator of the Falcons. And let's just take a moment and talk about what Dirk Cutter really wants to do in his offense. He wants the run game to be the foundation. And when you have the run game as the foundation, what you're looking to do is get the linebacker level of the defense to react to that, and then you create a lot of space in the middle of the field for in-breaking routes. Now, this Falcons team did not have a good week last week, but there's one play that's very representative of what they do and the problems they can pose for a defense. Take note of 2 things here. Julio Jones at the top of the screen, Calvin Ridley at the bottom of the screen. They have what we call reduced splits. Those are alerts for 2 things. vertical routes and routes that go across the field. And that's exactly what will happen here. So let's start with the run game action. That gets the defensive line moving laterally, and it gets the linebackers attacking the line of scrimmage. They're moving forward. So what you get with Julio Jones at the top of the screen, he's going to run the deep post route. Calvin Ridley at the bottom of the screen is going to run the crosser. This is a post-cross combination. It's a very common two-man route combination that you see in the NFL, particularly off run action. So what do? You get Julio lifting the coverage, clearing it out. Now obviously if he's available, you take it, but he's not here. But now you get Calvin Ridley on the crossing route. So now Matt Ryan secure in the pocket, hits Calvin Ridley on the crossing route, and you have an explosive pass play. As I said, this play is very representative and indicative of what the Falcons want to get done in the pass game. You get the linebackers moving forward, you create space in the middle of the field, Matt Ryan's comfortable in the pocket. This is the Falcons passing game in a nutshell.
All right, obviously the Eagles got burned last year by Dirk Cutter's play-action offense. Ryan Fitzpatrick had it over 400 yards against them in Tampa. And this past week, Case Keenum, 257 passing yards in the first half. What was he doing, and what was wrong with the Eagles' defense in the first half?
Well, I think when you look at this first game against the Redskins, the Eagles' game plan coming in defensively is to shut down Washington's run game, right? You got Darius Geis back here in the backfield, so you got a first down play here. This bunch formation here gives sort of a signal off to Malcolm that this could be a toss crack, right? He may be anticipating this guy coming down the crack and this ball getting tossed out here. So he's up to defend the run along with Avonte Maddox. But from Washington's standpoint, it's a great game plan because when you know you have a team that's good at stopping the run, what do you want to do? You want to give them play action pass. And more importantly, on first down, when defenses are expecting the run, that's when you go with the play action pass. That's what happens here. Nice play action from Case Keenum. Malcolm and Avonte sort of get caught up in that mix there, expecting the run. Meanwhile, you got the receiver back here in the curl area that's able to sneak behind them.
So what did the Eagles do in the second half to really completely turn it around?
Realize that the Redskins want to take advantage of their aggressive nature on first down and hit you with a little bit of play action. So what you get here is you're going to get the adjustment by the backside player here, right? On the front side, you're going to get these guys that are going to honor the play action pass here. But the key adjustment here is this guy has to be slow. Once he realizes that this ball is being pulled out, watch how quick Zach Brown turns and runs to an area. He's looking up either a receiver coming from this way or he's looking up a receiver coming back from that area, and that's what you have to do. That's a great job by that linebacker right there, recognizing that there's play action and then turning and running, looking up a receiver as opposed to just covering grass. That's what the Eagles were able to do in the second half, and more importantly, they shut down the Redskins' run game, so now we don't feel it's a threat if you try to run the ball.
Yeah, in the last 3 games against the Falcons, the Eagles have won them, and they're giving up an average of 12 points a game in those wins.
Yeah.
Who else concerns you, though, in this Falcons offense this year?
When you talk about the Falcons offense, John, you got to start with number 11, Julio Jones, in my opinion, best wide receiver in football. But you look at the complementary weapons around him. Guys like Calvin Ridley, who really broke on the scene last year, Mohamed Sanu, who's another veteran that you can't forget about, Devontae Freeman in the backfield, Austin Hooper, so an underrated tight end who can also be a threat in the red zone. And you look at their offensive line, they have some new players on the offensive line. First-round draft pick not available for them right now to go, but that's an offensive line that you can take advantage of on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think they did a great job last week protecting against Minnesota. They were able to exploit some things, but man, if you don't get home, Matt Ryan, MVP caliber quarterback, will find a way to beat you.
All right, so we showed you the game plan on how to beat the Falcons. The Eagles have to pack their running game, take it on the road to Atlanta. They've also got to, on defense, slow down that play action from Dirk Cutter and the Falcons offense. The Eagles saw that last year with Tampa Bay. Hopefully, they can go to 2-0. And check out our kickoff show at 7:50 on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you next week here on Eagles Game Plan, presented by Toyota. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local tri-state Toyota dealers, a proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.